Hello?
Hello, Jughead. This is Archie. Come over right away. It's a matter of life or death.
Oh, relax, Archie.
Attention, all true believers. Marvel Comics is on the air.
A friend of the unfortunate, enemy of criminals. In reality, Dan Garrett, a rookie patrolman, loved by everyone but suspected by none of being the Blue Beetle.
Boys and girls, your attention, please. Presenting a new exciting radio program featuring the thrilling adventures of an amazing and incredible personality.
Faster than an airplane, more powerful than a locomotive, impervious to bullets.
Up in the sky, look!
It's a bird, it's a plane, it's Superman!
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Everybody, we got an excellent show for you guys today on Talking Shop, so stick around. One thing that really means so much to me, and when it comes to what I've been doing in live streaming over the last 4 years, is kind of like where I started from, like where my grassroots in this particular arena are. You know, for the last 15 years, I've been going to comic conventions, selling my own creator-owned stuff, and really focused on that. But once COVID hit, that's when I started kind of switching things over to live streaming. And before I even started doing sales shows, what I was actually doing was interviewing other creators and, talking to them about their projects and their Kickstarters. In fact, for the first 6 months prior to me doing my first live sale ever, that's what I was doing, because I was trying to stay busy, trying to stay in front of everything because there were no conventions. So, I was kind of desperate. I was actually doing one interview every day. But after things took off with the sales shows, I kind of took a step back from doing interview shows completely because, I was so focused on what I was doing here. And I recently, over the last couple months, had some conversations with producer Kyle, and we found a way for me to kind of poke my head back into this world, which is so important for me because I think that a lot of independent creators really don't get a chance to stand out the ways that they deserve to. When you look at the direct market and how it is, sort of centered around bigger publishers, not necessarily just Marvel and DC, but bigger publishers, there's an entire market that is completely glossed over, and it's the small micro publishers like myself and our special guest today. So I just want to let you guys know how much it means to me to be back here doing this, and how important it is for me to be talking with creators and guys like this who are trying to basically make their own path. They're not answering to the big two. They're not answering to any other publisher. They're bootstrapping it. They're doing it their way. So without further ado, I am happy to bring in our guest today, Mr. Jason Strutz. How you doing, sir?
Hi, how you doing today? Hello, everybody.
Fantastic. How are you?
Excellent. Yeah, it's been a pretty good day today. Yeah,
that's awesome, man. Well, why don't you kick it off? Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, and about your project and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. So my name's Jason Strutz. You can see that down there in the corner there. But I'm a comic artist and writer working on a graphic novel called Returned. You can see it over on that side. So this is the first book that I have both written and drawn. I've been working in comics for 10, 12 years or so, just doing various small bits, graphic novels, parts in anthologies and things like that. And as you were talking about in your intro, that sort of 2020 sort of landed in the middle of that for me as well. In that I have a daughter who's now 11. And she was going to be going to full-time school in the year 2019, 2020. So I said, I better have something to work on. So rather than rope someone else into my kind of iffy schedule sometimes, I started working on writing my own book, Returned here. So it's a.
Would you say this was like your COVID machination, like something you started working around?
Actually, before COVID. I was looking at my daughter being in school 6-7 hours a day, and I said, well, this could be a time I could work on something bigger. So I started working on writing this in 2019 with the idea that I would start drawing it in about March of 2020, and then put it out as a webcomic and start from there. So script mostly done by about March 2020, but I then became a school teacher for a bit until the school district came together with some virtual options. Then I was the teacher's aide, keeping her online and all that. So sort of pushed back the schedule on everything. Very uncertain times, as everyone knows. But I'm happy now to be finally starting to release the book 2 pages a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays at returnedcomic.com. Yeah, I'm very happy to finally be able to put this out and talk about it and do promotion, talk to people about what's going on.
You know what's really interesting? What you remind me of with your ability to finally get from point A to point B. It reminds me of this story I once heard of this lady who was she was studying to be to get her degree in not in aquatics, but basically in the study of like sea life and things like that. And what ended up happening was her family ended up getting sick. So she had to stop everything she was doing and focus on the family business. And that became her full-time hustle. But she would find time every week or every day or however to make just a little bit of progress so that eventually she could turn in this article, which was, really well received. And that led to something else. And now she's one of the top experts on the subject matter, and she got to where she wanted to go. So here's a question for you. How did you do that? Like, how did you go about managing your schedule? Like, what were those things that you were like, okay, this is something I need to do every day in order to make my progress and stay focused on what I want to achieve?
Yeah. So certainly in the beginning, my daughter's doing halftime school, so she went to school in the morning for a few hours, and I decided to kind of block off that time to basically, I went to go sit at my one of my local libraries and just try to read every book I could find on screenwriting, on comic writing, to get me from the point where I have an idea to a drawable script. So I'd never written anything quite this long, but for the longest time, it was always something that I thought I could do, but just didn't have the tools, didn't have the experience to take it from idea to script. And I decided to block off pretty much most of that year, 2019, when she was in school, to take those mornings, work on reading and work on writing the script. So this originally grew out of an event called 24-Hour Comic Day, which is usually something that happens first week of October every year. You find some local comic shops or libraries putting this on wherever you're watching from. But great event. You have 24 hours to make 24 pages of comic. And kind of those were the environments that I was comfortable writing in, where you can step in, you have an idea, and you just have to, you go, but you're very focused for those 24 hours. So I knew I had to work out, a different system other than, pure terror of you have to get it done in 24 hours. So that system was blocking off this 2.5 hours to only work on this thing in an environment that is harder to get distracted in. So I I've been home with my daughter since she was born, so I've been pretty much taking care of her and house and all that while my wife went to school and getting jobs and all that. So I had that opportunity to have that free time. So that was definitely a boon for me. But being disciplined about that time to learn something new, and for me, learning something new is uncomfortable sometimes because you're going to do a bunch and then you're going to redo a bunch. So to block off that time and put it in a place that's harder to get distracted in, I think was my strategy with getting past some of the uncomfortableness of learning something new, learning a new skill, and then bringing that forward when I started to draw layouts for the book. That's taking the script and making sketchy outlines of everything. Then that became the next challenge, and that was probably a little further into 2020 that I started working on that a little bit more, but taking it slow, not with the idea that I was launching anytime soon, but that I wanted to keep this project going. And some of that was my sunk cost of like, hey, I spent like a year writing a book and I have a script, like I should do something with it. So once it was harder to block off that time, when everybody's home in the house, then it slowed down a bit and became a little less disciplined for a while. Also in there, I ended up with a full-time art job doing illustration and art directing for a role-playing game publisher called 2C Gaming. So that was kind of about a year and a bit of detour on this, when I was doing maybe page layouts in the evening. But again, taking a lot of that pressure off. That's kind of what 2020 did for me, where had pandemic stuff not happened, this probably would have been a project that maybe moved more quickly, but also had less opportunity for reflection on some of the themes and some of the work that I'm doing, especially the artwork that I'm doing. So in some ways, it felt like a big roadblock, but I think that it has worked out so far with my happiness with the work that I'm doing.
It's interesting, like time gives us the ability to grow, and it sounds like you were doing art directing and other things that helped you develop other skills. Do you think those other skills helped make what you're doing right now better?
Yeah, absolutely. So working with the publisher, it's a publisher I've been working with for 8 or 9, 10 years at that point, on a freelance basis, and then we sort of made it more official. But yeah, being able to do more with design of the books, do more with finding freelancers and looking at their work, and being able to critique that in a fashion that someone can do something with, I think definitely helped with where I am. And the sort of style that I'm using in the book grew out of a project that I started with the Edgar Allan Poe House in Baltimore, that I do a lot of design and illustration work for. So we've been doing story posters about the death of Edgar Allan Poe, or the death of his wife Virginia. This past October, we just did the story of David Poe and his David Poe's the grandfather of Edgar Allan Poe and his relationship with the Revolutionary War. But the style that I'm working this comic in grew out of the illustration style that I've been using for those story posters. Again, something that I didn't have nailed down at the time that I was going to be starting work in 2020 on this. So I think the quality of the work is definitely better than what would have been coming out had I just jumped straight into it at that time. And I think story-wise too, there's definitely been adjustments to story. going through editors' comments and things like that. So I think there's being able to put the brakes on it and slow down for a moment being a couple years, slow down for a couple years, I think definitely helps the project. Yeah.
Sure. Okay, let's get into the nitty gritty then of the story itself. So I see medieval horror family drama behind me, and that's my. I see some really cool artwork. I've briefly your project. Some of the artwork in the book. It looks really great, and the artwork is phenomenal. This is like totally something that I'd want to check out. So I guess I have two questions. Before you tell us like everything that your story's about, but since we were talking about craft and everything, like what do you see yourself as more? Are you more of a writer or are you more of an artist? Like what was more of a challenge for you in terms of, navigating this project?
Yeah, I would say I'm definitely more comfortable as an artist. And that's that sort of leads to, why I'm producing this in the way I am and releasing it in the way that I am. I feel more comfortable as an artist, but that's also because that's been something I've been doing my whole life. So comfortability, definitely artist. But I do know that in working with writers and publishers on books, there were definitely times when I would look at a script and say, this could be something different. This could be changed in some way, or I'm looking at it from a visual aspect and trying to give not notes, but like, let's have a discussion about this. And those were always, not always, but sometimes not received greatly from the people who were in charge of the project. So it was writing and having my own concepts and storylines that I'm thinking of and looking to do has always been, part of how I work. That I'm usually very hands-on with writers and hands-on with people developing stories. And it's always fun to develop a story with someone else.
I see.
Having this freedom, I think, is a good thing for me, especially right now, to just, in some ways, prove to myself, and then once it's all done, prove to other people that I can write a book and draw a book and put out a graphic novel.
So something you just said to me, like, having someone to collaborate with, I think it's an important aspect of what you're saying. Goes into making a comic, and the fact that you are kind of like doing all this by yourself. It's like, do you have people that you can collaborate with on this? Like people you can talk to for advice?
Yeah. So early on, when I was finishing up the script and towards the end of that process, I worked with a friend of mine, a comic editor named Beth Scorzato. So she worked with me a bit on story holes and motivations and things like that. My best read of my work was that I was leaving it more background with the idea that people might get that, but it may not have been as clear as it needed to be in the script, and that was definitely something that they helped with going through reading the book. And then I also have my wife is an excellent proofreader and reader. And so I had a few people read it when I was at the end of the script process to look through it. So that is a collaborator in Beth, and that is friends and other writers. Say in my wife or my friend Brockton McKinney. He works for Bad Idea Comics at the moment, but he's a writer of horror movies and comics and things like that. And I think my best review from him was like, "Oh, you said you wrote something, but you didn't say you wrote something good." was his review. So I enjoyed that pull quote, and I gotta nail that one down.
That's awesome. That's really
but
cool.
yeah,
All right.
I did want to have people read through it as my first large scale project that I've written. I wanted to have other people look at it before I sat down to do the art, because the art was comfortable to me, but I didn't want to fly off without some of the reassurance that someone else read this and it made sense.
Sure. Okay, so getting that out of the way, let's talk now about the project itself. Yeah.
So Returned, as you can see, a medieval horror family drama. That's my weird hook for people. And I can tell if someone's listening at a convention if they're just like, oh yeah, okay, because it's I wanted to put together words that as a tagline that are unexpected, because this is a book that is mashing up various genres within an adventure zombie horror tale. So you can see behind me, the main character Vale. She's fighting an army of the dead in the beginning of the book. Kind of drop you right into the middle of that, and unfortunately, dead herself by about page 13.
Wow! So your main character dies on page 13.
Yeah, page 13, dead. But there's more work to do. There's more book to write. So she spends some time as a bad zombie lady until her partner and her son find her, tie her to a chair, and help her ghost repossess her zombie body. So now you have a husband. It's medieval times. They're not necessarily married, but her partner, her son, both living, both want to continue living, now have this partner, this mother, who is compromised by, she is dead. And once she's able to control that body again, they now have to escape that, the immediate situation of, zombie undead army onslaught is happening in our village, in our city, and they have to first escape, and then we have to deal with the Mombi situation, which I fought myself very hard not to call it Mombi, because that's not the tone of the book. But so they have to escape, and we have to figure out what is going on in this world, because one of the things that I definitely wanted to do, telling a zombie book, is to have a reason this is happening, just to be different from many other zombie things. Like, what is the reason behind this happening? And there is, in my book, a reason that this is happening. So once we get past the very small world of, this is one person fighting an army of the dead, we grow it into the family, and the family has to escape. And then we have to deal with the fact that, the mother in this situation is at times a liability, because what's happening is that when her family is threatened, she loses a bit of control over that body. And then we have to move into, what can she do that nobody else can in this situation to try and end what's going on here. And then we get into gods and metaphysicals and all sorts of fun stuff from there.
I see. So some of your inspirations I saw were like the 2018 God of War game, which is one of my favorite gaming experiences, and totally like a family drama and
absolutely, yeah,
medieval sense. So can you tell us a little bit about your inspirations for this and everything?
Yeah, absolutely. And to speak to like the God of War thing, it was I had played many of the other games. They're all very relatively shallow. Beat 'em up.
The first three were definitely
beat 'em up bloodfests. Very fun, very high action, low character, low drama, low emotional drama at the very least. And for a while, knowing what that game was, I avoided playing it for a while I was writing the script, so as not to get too freaked out or too influenced by any one thing. But yeah, that's a story that similar to a lot of zombie media. Lots of zombie media was high action, high gore, high running around, but low emotional stakes in a lot of zombie stories, zombie movies. So like that series, going from a high action storytelling into like, okay, now this is happening to real people. What happens when they come up against something that it is an emotional anchor for them? This mother who went off to war is now back as part of the enemy. So definitely that, but also some of the goofiness of Army of Darkness works in there sometimes, and there's a very specific sequel to Return of the Living Dead 3, all very up to that point goofy sort of comedy zombie movies, and then Return of the Living Dead 3 is, oh, my girlfriend is now a zombie. What do we do? How do we go from here? So that was a story that it's still an early 90s zombie movie, but it's trying to put emotional stakes and emotional ties into the concept. It's not always a faceless horde. You're probably going to know one of those faces.
I think that's what matters, right? It's like especially in comics, because the graphical context and the graphical mesmerization is kind of toned down to just the artwork. You could be mesmerized by someone's artwork, but it's not the same thing as seeing like figures in motion, Kratos battling Baldur and all this big, high intense action, like big budget action games. So you got to kind of dial it down. And the one thing we got working in our advantage is story. This is the stuff that people really want to focus on. So, and I think it's really cool that your focus is in all the right places with, making it about the characters, so that it's not just like, hey, we're not fighting a mindless horde. We're fighting, characters that we, know, and there's something at stake here. It's not just two characters punching each other for 5 pages for no good reason.
Yeah, and I wanted to take the scale that you can work at in comics. That if I wanted to make this as a movie, it would be a family in a room, because that's what I can afford to make. But in comics, I can draw a horde of zombies. I have a mysterious floating castle going around, taking this undead army to 2 different places to wipe them out or add to the army. So I can do things in comics that I would never have the budget to do in any almost any other media. So I wanted to use that sort of horror mindset that this is kind of the basis for the story, but I'm going to be able to bring in the scale of like a Lord of the Rings. I'm going to be able to bring in the scale of like the Bone books, something that starts small and gets huge, and bringing in that action adventure aspect. And this is all stuff that very few movies are going to get anywhere near the budget that would be needed to make this. But we can do that in comics. We can tell those big stories in comics.
I think that's the most amazing thing about our medium, and that's always been why I've been more attracted to it, because to make these movies, you need to have a lot of connections and a lot of money and a lot of everything kind of working towards you, and getting to that point of concept, to the point where it actually exists, to the point where it's profitable. It's like you got to have so many things working in your favor Whereas with comics, it's like you're working with a much smaller budget, but you can still make those ideas come to life, and then you can make that somebody else's problem.
Yeah. So I can make that big budget horror thing that's never going to be, not never, who knows, but
of course,
that is very rare. That is very rare in other media.
This is true. Guys, we're going to take a short commercial break, but when we come back, I'm going to ask Jason another slew of really awesome questions, and we're going to keep this conversation going. So we will see you in just a second.
Something is speaking to you.
Buy more comics.
Just at the edge of your perception.
Buy more comics.
Your senses fill with visions of vortices.
360 Comics.
Slowly drawing you to one thundering epiphany.
360 Comics!
360 Comics!
360 Comics!
The universe is telling you to shop with 360 Comics. Joe's got amazing stock from high dollar to $5 books, from Silver Age to modern, CGC, variant covers, and more. 360 Comics every Wednesday at 9 Eastern, part of The Experience.
Twitch. It's not just what happens when you have too many energy drinks anymore. Check out our content over there, too.
All right. Well, it turns out we didn't actually need to take a break. That was my fault. I thought we needed to, because they tell us at all the meetings. They show us the carrot and they say, "Here's what you get when you take commercial breaks." And then they showed us like the big chained mace, and they're like, "This is what happens when you don't take a break at every half-hour point." So I just want to make sure I got that carrot. Carrots are a good source of vitamin E.
Sure.
Sure. Vitamin C for carrot. Mr. Towers, what's up? Kenneth Bird, how you doing? All right, Jason, let's continue our conversation. So something I wanted to ask you is, I still get the carrot. That's great. So something I wanted to ask you is, how do you see this? Because like right now you're putting your book out digitally through your website. Every week you're putting out 2 new pages. Or is it 1 to 2 pages? It just kind of varies.
It's 2 pages coming out Tuesdays and Thursdays.
Okay. So 4 pages a week.
Right there. So it's 2 pages a week, 1 page Thursday, 1 page Friday.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, so 2 pages a week, 1 on Tuesday, 1 on Friday. Once you get to a certain point, are you going to take this to Kickstarter, or are you going to try and get this published through someone else? Like, what's the vision here?
Yeah, so for the webcomic format, to start there, what I am aiming for in putting it out free on the website is to get eyeballs on the project, get people to read the book, which is always the challenge in indie comics. It's if you put up that paywall, you're knocking so many people off of just being able to look at the book, read the book, and I'm happy to be able to kind of put that out in a way that I can just advertise, go here, read the book, and my hope is then that people will see that and then want to start collecting some physical copies of it. So the story is written in 4 parts, which are roughly 40 some pages each. So about 155 page a book. So around 40 pages apart. So I'm going to be launching Kickstarters for kind of a Kickstarter exclusive edition of those 4 parts. So you can pick it up in 4 chunks through the Kickstarters, and then do a Kickstarter at the end for a big fancy celebratory book, or as fancy as we can make it. And then that would be the place that would have a lot of the behind the scenes and extras, and kind of be the forever form of the book. But but I wanted to give people the opportunity to collect those parts. People that were interested in collecting a printed book of say part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. So there will be 4 Kickstarters. The first one will be in March, based on the schedule of release right now. So the month of March would be a Kickstarter for part 1, and then going on from there, there'll be a Kickstarter, say every probably 3-4 months with the schedule, and be releasing each part to be a very, very limited Kickstarter exclusive print. So you order the book through there, you're going to get that book, and I don't think that I'm even going to have any to sell myself. That the idea is that I want to provide those people that want the book the ability to have that without having the overhead of like, oh, I need to keep all 4 parts, 4 individual parts of this book in stock all the time, which is always a struggle as an indie creator, where say if you do 6 issues of your book and you only have issues 3 and 5 on your table, no one's going to buy issue 3 and 5 of your book. So I wanted to honor the ability to collect an ongoing story and have individual parts, and also be able to reach out to different audiences that are going to find it through that Kickstarter, or find it through any other sort of media around the Kickstarter, and sort of build that audience with that very low bar of entry of just come to a website and read a book.
So Jay has asked a question: if you do variants, are there any artists you'd like to work with? Is there an option you're looking into, or is it just to get the book out at this point?
It is something that I would look into, kind of based on how those Kickstarters are doing. I would love to put in a further stretch goal or further reward. Haven't totally designed everything out yet, but that is something that I would definitely like to do. Yeah, there are definitely people that I would love to reach out to, people I know, and others I don't, but like artistic inspirations, like a Tyler Crook cover, a Matteo Scalera. Those are kind of high bars. There's yeah, that would be a great thing to be able to offer. I have a friend who lives nearby, Vince Locke, who worked on Sandman and does Cannibal Corpse album covers and things like that. It'd be great to have him do something for a cover, or even for something that sits in the book.
So
it'd be great to bring those people in.
So I had more like kind of like business related questions. What I think is interesting about your model, and I always like to ask this because like I like to learn from other creators and see what everybody's doing right. Like I never have this philosophy of like I've been doing this longer, thus I know more. Like there are people who are much younger or have a different approach that works. And one thing that's really kind of like bringing with me that I think is really cool that you're doing is you're putting up new content every week, and that keeps eyes on what you're doing. So how have you been using this platform to really grow? And like have you looked into other things like Webtoon and things like that as well? Yeah,
so using the webcomic, the webcomic comic format is just releasing free on my website. Has been a bit of ease of advertising. I've worked on books before where I have to send people to a website and they have to pay some money, and every step in a process is a place where someone is going to fall off. And where I am right now, I need more than trying to squeeze $1 out of someone to look at something I drew. I more need someone to look at the things that I drew and enjoy it, and tell someone else about it. And that that is the most easy thing when you can just say, hey, this is happening here. You can, find me on social media, and there'll be announcements every Tuesday and Thursday about pages going up. So wanted to lower that bar of entry to everyone can come look at this, and then work from there if it's something that connects with those readers. So yeah, I need to more than getting small amounts of money out of a few people. I would just like people to read a book and enjoy it, and then hopefully, I would like to parlay that into doing more books in this format, perhaps, and working on graphic novels, writing and drawing, sort of book after book would be the dream. Not necessarily something that goes on forever. Write a book, write a totally different book. Would be the dream that I would like to reach. And for where I am right now, and with the sort of schedule of things coming out from me, I more need the eyeballs than I need $1 from someone.
That is actually.
But I'll certainly ask you for $1 later.
No, but that's smart, because that's how you start. Like if you start coming out the door asking people for money for something that they're not familiar with, you don't have a gauge of who your audience is. By letting it out into the world and letting people read it, you're giving them a chance to kind of expose themselves to the work, and like you can kind of get an idea, or start to get an idea of who your audience is. And I think that's a really important place to start. I think you got the right idea here by starting with that. And the fact that you're putting out new content every week is a really great thing. So is there some kind of measure that you use, like for tracking your website traffic? And are you just using social media to push this? Do you have like a newsletter? Like what are other things?
Yeah, so on returncomic.com and my main website, strutzart.com, there's a newsletter sign up. So I sent out a little alert this morning about this interview. But there's a newsletter you can sign up for, and that is usually a monthly newsletter. Kind of goes through the various things that I did this month. And then this past week and a half or so, I put kind of the first returned wrap-up edition of the comic. So what I'm doing in that sense is people that maybe have a harder time remembering or thinking about going to a website and reading, say, just one page of a longer story. This newsletter sort of wrap-up will be bringing you kind of a month's worth of pages. So in this case, it was about 10 pages wrapped up into a PDF that you can download from a link in the newsletter. So if it was something that you maybe don't want to go to that website Tuesdays and Thursdays, or that's just not something that works for you, or you want to read a longer form story in slightly longer chunks, you can sign up at the newsletter and you'll be getting a wrap-up issue, digital issue, free every month. So that first one went out, and anybody who wants to sign up for the newsletter, before the next one goes out, I will definitely be sending out a copy of that email to people with that PDF link in there for any new sign up people, so they can catch up. And that would be something that would come to your inbox on a monthly basis. So in some ways, there is a monthly book coming out. It just goes straight to your email. So I have the newsletter and working on the doing more focused social media has also been great, because when you're running the whole show, you can keep running on something. You can keep working on something. When I've worked on other books in the past, I may get paid for those pages when I do them, turn them in, but my incentive for constantly posting on social media about something that I did is in some ways is lower than something that I can continually point people towards. So I've done work in the past. I've already been paid for that work, and I want to promote that, and I will for a while, but it's not going to stick around forever because I'm going to be moving on to the next thing. But with something that I'm running, there is always the incentive to post about that, to talk about that, and to let people know when new things come up, and let people, a little bit behind the scenes on how that's being created. So I have been learning a lot about the back end of the meta universe of running businesses and scheduling posts on all that. But then I'm also posting on almost everything out there. So Blue Sky and Instagram, and there's an artist focused social media called Kara that I've been posting on as well. So kind of every Tuesday and Thursday, I open up all of my social media folder and start posting everywhere. There are new pages up. So I've been learning a lot of the marketing stuff as I go, but definitely want to be always getting better at that. And this just started in October, so October 1st. So yeah, we're only
so you're
tomorrow.
You're still starting
11?
out. Yeah.
Well, so tomorrow's page 11 and Thursday's page 12.
Wow.
But in terms of finishing art, I'm around page 36, 37 right now. So that backlog is in place, which is definitely something I was waiting for to launch. Feeling comfortable, like I had that backlog ready, so I can relax a little bit.
So I have a couple more questions for you, and I guess one of them is gonna dive back a little bit into, why of everything. So I guess one of the first question is, what are some of your biggest comic book influences? Like we talked about, God of War and things like video games, things outside of comics that inspire you. But what within our industry? What are some of those titles that really made you say, this is awesome, I want to make a comic someday?
Yeah, I think it's. In terms of making comics someday, the comics are things that I've been reading my whole life. So in the beginning was Spider-Man's and X-Men stuff, and that's prime early '90s Marvel things was kind of my start, and then moving more towards graphic novels, towards some stories that have endings. I like stories that have endings.
Same here.
So moving more towards those graphic novels, so the Charles Burns horror books, and some of the more contained Bernie Wrightson stuff, and then I've really been enjoying kind of all Tyler Crook's work. So Lonesome Hunters and Harrow County. I love the artwork and storytelling that he's been doing on the Hunters book, and that's been great to see. And his work is all watercolor and ink, and that's been fun to see in comics, because that's a kind of a direction that I've gone with this book as well. So I've been enjoying his stuff, and then Black Science.
Yeah, that's a great one. Matteo Scalero, his artwork.
Yeah. Spectacular work on that, and spectacular color work by the colorists. So
yes.
Of course, I don't
know what the colorist is on that, but Black Science,
yeah,
gorgeous looking book. I also really like Space Bandits, because like you, I'm like I like things that end.
Yeah.
But I'm also like lately, because of the fact that like I'm reselling and trying to stay ahead of the curve. Like every new comic that comes out today will be a back issue tomorrow. So I'm trying to stay ahead of the curve with everything that's coming out now to build up my own personal collection, and to also just know a lot of these books. So I'm reading a lot of ongoing series too. But even the pacing of some ongoing series now, it's almost like I bring a creator on for, let's say, 40 or 50 issues of book, and that's it. I mean, it's a lot of an investment for you as a reader, but there's a lot that they do within that time, and you know, it all works to inspire. But that's the thing I kind of like about series like, you know, Space Bandits is like you get Matteo Scalero's artwork, but it's like only like 5 issues as opposed to having to track down like all 40 issues of Black Signs.
Sure.
How many issues there was. So that's cool. So looking at your work, and have it up here, it kind of reminds me a little bit of you got a real loose kind of style. Kind of reminds me a little bit of Nick Dracota a little bit, who's currently illustrating Absolute Batman. So what was your approach to, you know, doing layouts and to doing all the nitty gritty work? I would even say actually Nick Dracota. I'm actually going to say someone else, Chris Burnham. I don't know if you know who Chris Burnham is.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah, and so the work that I've been doing, my layouts, I usually do on my iPad or desktop here, because I love in the puzzle solving of making a page. You have to get from the top to the bottom. Being able to grab something and change the size of that and figure out the storytelling with less erasing is great. So I use the digital tools for that, and then I print that out 11 by 17 and working on my light box with kind of a full value of ink wash. So sort of starting from the lighter, going darker, and then finally ending with a brush pen and some white paint to bring back sort of highlights that needed to be in there. And I really enjoy this process because it gives me a lot of places to fix things in the process of making a page. I had always had sort of a disconnect with doing kind of straight black and white line work inking, in that I was not smooth enough to make the flowing lines of like a Jeff Smith bone. So I wasn't built for the more expressive cartoon style. But then coming in maybe a little too scratchy, a little too dark with inks that were just either white or black. And that stress of like, oh, this one line has to be the most perfect line on your first try was a lot for me. And that was something that I always sort of, had a disconnect there in making the art. And then kind of once I hit upon this, using a full range of tones of gray ink, I can start light and I can make some sketchy lines and I can kind of work that out on the page and then bring it all back together through the various stages. So I can fix things, at various levels of the ink, and then come in with the white paint at the end. So then I scan those in, and then I do the colors and letters back on the computer, because that's something that I can take out of my house. So if I have to go to a doctor's appointment, or I have to, or I choose to go out to art event nights, I can take that work along with me. So I have something I can do at home. I have something that I can do on the road with the digital tools that are available, and that's a great flexibility that I can have, where I can work anywhere, which is probably a bad thing, but I can work anywhere every time.
So where speaking of working anywhere, where do you work from? Where are you based?
So I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Specifically,
so I'm heading there. Are you going to be at the convention? Oh,
yeah. I'm going to be. I won't. I'm not having a table, but I'm going to be walking around, visiting all the people that I know there.
Yeah, we'll have to meet in person.
Yeah, that'd be great. I know I'm going to meet up with some people there, and that would be awesome. But so I'm in Grand Rapids, Michigan. This is my basement. There's more stuff. It's not an entirely black void. But I figure no one wants to see my exercise bike behind me.
Well,
but yeah,
I have to have this set up here because my office is such a mess that I don't have like one of those clever setups like some other broadcasters do. So for now, it's just you guys get this backdrop.
Big black cloth hanging from ceiling.
Yes.
So I work from home. So that means I'm able to, do things with my daughter, go on field trips and take her to and from school, and all that flexibility that comes along with that is awesome. And then outside of the house, I like to go to libraries, go to places that are maybe easier to focus. I have less other books to read, less things to watch. So that's kind of my focus time. And then I also have art events. I'm going to one later tonight called Studio Night in Grand Rapids here. But it's just 15 to 20 artists hanging out in the banquet space of a bar and talking shop and making art. And I love to have that kind of community as well, seeing as I'm stuck in my basement.
Yeah, I totally understand that. One creator that popped in just now, Dan Price, you two, he's very much like you. He writes and illustrates his own comic. He makes it work the same way. It's a really interesting approach. So he's popped in right now. And Dan, this is Jason Strutz. He's a guy you're gonna want to know. Really awesome dude. So Dan also does his own show where he draws and he brings on other creators and stuff to come and hang out. So perhaps you two can get connected somehow, and
yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. All right. Well, it looks like we're. Oh, sorry. Go ahead with what you were saying.
Yeah, I like the pressure of live drawing.
Yes, of course.
As it sounds.
All right. Well, Jason, we're getting to the end of our show here. So I just wanted to give you a chance to say any last words so we can wrap up here.
Yeah. So thanks everybody for watching. And the biggest thing is head to returncomic.com, check out the first 10 pages, sign up for the newsletter, and get that collected every month, and some behind the scenes stuff. And you can find me at Strutz Art on pretty much all social media. It's great to have a very distinct last name. So I'm able to jump on there and grab that handle. So easy social media finds, Strutz Art on everything.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. And I'm looking forward to seeing the progression of your story. I will definitely be a backer on your Kickstarter campaign. And I'm sure we're going to want to have you back on the experience at some point.
That would be awesome. That would be great. Thank you so much.
It would be really great. And it looks like Dan just followed you on Instagram. So it looks like we got you another follower here. And I wish you the best of luck, man. Your tenacity and your ability to just keep pushing through is really an inspiration to me as a creator. And I look forward to meeting you in Grand Rapids.
Great. Sounds good. Thank you so much.
Of course. All right, Jason, take care. Everybody else, have a wonderful rest of your evening. I will be on the air on my channel in just a couple hours, Slinging Comics, 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Mountain Time, 7 p.m. Central, 8 p.m. Eastern. We got a whole new week of comic slinging coming your way. So I'll see you there. And then I'll be back on The Experience tomorrow night for my regular episode of Kicking It at 7 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Mountain, 9 p.m. Central, 10 p.m. Eastern. It is election night, but we're going to do something. We're working on doing something to make it exciting for you guys. So we will see you all tomorrow, and have a great rest of your afternoon. Get ready for Comic Collectibles, which is coming right up.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Join the party. Head over to our link tree to find all the links for everywhere The Experience is all the time.